What's up, guys? Back with another video. So this is gonna be the start of a new series. I wanted to do this last year actually, but the time I thought about doing it was already in the middle of the season, so I decided not to do it. However, we are gonna do it this year. This is a series that I'm gonna call Farmin and Football. So it's basically what we've been doing, which is farming, but we're also gonna talk about football as well. It should probably come to no surprise to anybody because I've made a couple videos in the past and they did pretty well, so I think we're gonna roll with it this year. As far as how we're gonna do this, I have a couple ideas in my head, but this video we're gonna start with. I'm gonna basically give out my rankings to the AP poll, how I'm ranking everybody versus the actual AP poll. So this is gonna be like Blake's top 25 and how I have everybody ranked and why I put them where I put them. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so we'll go from number 1 to 25. So my number 1 team is Georgia. I do agree with that. I do think Georgia is number 1. They've won 2 out of the 3 last national titles. I personally will never know the answer to this, but I personally think if they were in the playoffs last year, I really think they could have gave Michigan a true fight. Like, I really think Georgia probably could have took down Michigan maybe. The reason Georgia doesn't match up with Alabama very well, in my opinion, is they're a carbon copy of them. They're Alabama 2.0. So that's my opinion on why Georgia does not match up well with Alabama, and they have an Alabama problem and can't beat them. But yeah, I have Georgia at number 1. Number 2, my number 2 and 3, they're really, you could put them either or. They're so close and so matched. But I have my beloved Ducks, Oregon at number 2. A lot of talent coming back. Picked up anywhere where they lost talent, they picked up. Like, Bo Nix went to the NFL, picked up Dylan Gabriel. And then also, this is genius what Dan Lanning did. He went out and he got another starting quarterback in Dante Moore from UCLA. So we got 2 capable quarterbacks. He's picked up a running back. I believe this running back is from an FCS school though, but he's a big dude. And Jay Harris picked up a running back. Also, Noah Winningham is coming back. And then picked up Evan Stewart, so a wide receiver, and all kinds of bits and pieces here and there who have playing experience at other schools. So Dan Lanning, he crushed the portal this year. There is no doubt about it. But yeah, I have Oregon at number 2. Hope to see big things out of them this year. Go to number 3. I have Ohio State. Now, like I said, number 2 and number 3 could have went either way. They're so close, so evenly matched. But I put Ohio State at number 3 just simply because this is why I put them at 3, not number 2. Simply because I do not care for their head coach. They did not win their bowl game last year. It was an utter just disgrace, in my opinion. Ryan Day did not have that team prepared at all. It doesn't, like, here's the thing that it drives me up a wall, is you have a bunch of Ohio State fans going, it's we had backups playing, our quarterback quit on us, all this and that. It's like, yeah, that doesn't mean, that's not an excuse for your team not to be prepared. Like, I don't care if it's the entire third strings out there. That falls on your head coach. That's his job to make sure these guys are prepared, and he didn't do it, and you lost. You lost badly. So they went out and spent a lot of money. They brought Chip Kelly in, which that's an interesting move. We're going to see either this is going to go great for him or this is going to be a disaster. Got Chip Kelly in there, which I said that last year. I was like, it was about the middle of the year. I was like, if this school is ever going to win anything, Ryan Day's going to have to get an offensive coordinator or something. And then, I mean, really, I saw it towards after the Georgia game is when I really got on it that he needed to just give up the play calling. And, of course, they went all of last year and did okay. But definitely this needed to happen. They picked up Quinshaw Judkins from Ole Miss. He's a really good running back. I've seen what he can do. He's pretty good. Why is this truck not turning? He is a really good running back. And the other one's going to pull out now. Picked up Will Howard. I am not big on Will Howard. I'm not saying I'm not a fan. I'm not big on him. His numbers were not impressive. He played against a weaker defenses in the Big 12. His completion rate was like 61%. Nothing spectacular. He had 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He had less yards than McCord. McCord was actually a better quarterback than him, so I'm not big on him at all. I don't really think that he could lead this team. Like, if you need like 7 perfect throws to win a game against Georgia, I don't think this guy could do it for you. If you were in that situation, I don't think he could do it. So, but basically my only reasoning for having him at number 3 and number 2 is just how bad the bowl game went over and just how unprepared Ryan Day was for that. So, who is still the head coach. Try not to go on a Ryan Day tangent and rant, which I guarantee I'm saying this now. It's not if, it's a matter of when I will end up throwing a huge Ryan Day tantrum this year probably somewhere. And I'm not even a fan of the school either. I just can't stand Ryan Day. I hate the guy. Well, I don't hate him. I just dislike him because he does less with more. Like it just baffles me that he wastes talent in the end. So at some point I'll probably go on a tangent about him. It's only a matter of when. He'll do something stupid and I'll just get pissed with it, but you have to stay tuned for that rant because it's coming. I guarantee somewhere in this season it's coming. All right, number 4. Spent way too much time on Ohio State. Number 4. I got Texas. I liked what they did last year. They went to the college football playoffs. They were a couple plays away from actually going to the national title game. They have Quinn Ewers coming back this year, which that's big. They have Archie Manning backing him up. So whether or not we'll see much of Archie Manning this year, who knows? I would suspect we might see a little bit more than what we saw last year. It's hard to say. But I got Texas at 4. I got Quinn Ewers. They have Isaiah Bond transferring in from Alabama. He's a pretty good receiver. So I got a solid with Texas last year. So they're definitely going to have it's going to be interesting to start the season because of who they're going to play. They're going to play Michigan, like almost right out of the gate almost. So that's going to be interesting. I'm going to cover that more when I actually go and break down these teams individually and what I think their ceiling and floor wins are going to be and expectations. That's going to be another video on each individual team. But I like what I see from Texas so far. I believe they're having a little bit of an injury bug right now with their running backs, but I think Texas is going to have a pretty good year. I got them at number 4. Let's see here. At number 5, I have Alabama. This is very hard to... My number 5 and number 6, they could have went either way. That was another 2 teams that could have went either way. But I got Alabama. Just solely on their... They went to the playoffs last year. They were a good team. They almost beat Michigan. You know, they lost on the last play of the game, but that play was actually designed to where they actually should have won that game. They gave that game away, to be honest. They couldn't snap the ball at all. That was another thing. I know it stood out to me really bad in that game. They couldn't snap the ball, and then apparently I found out later from Alabama fans, oh, hey, yeah, this has been going on all year. We've had issues with the snap all year. And sure enough, it bit them in the Rose Bowl. Your quarterback's not going to do very good if you're throwing them if you're giving them grounders each time. So Alabama by far should have probably won the Rose Bowl, but they didn't. But I got them at number 5, even with Kalen DeBoer stepping in and Nick Saban stepping down. I still think they're probably going to be pretty good. So we'll see what Kalen can do with it. Kalen's a winner. He's won everywhere he's went. He's won. So we'll see what he can do with this team. You got Jalen Milroe, quarterback. So and honestly, I would put him in a Heisman watch. He was good last year. I don't see him being any different this year. So we'll see what Alabama can do. Number 6, I got Ole Miss. Ole Miss has Jackson Dart coming back. I haven't really looked into why Judkins left Ole Miss, but I kind of if he would have stayed, I don't really think they're going to drop off much this year, but they were definitely a really good team with Judkins in the backfield, and I don't really see them being any different this year. Again, this isn't really we're not trying to get too in depth with these teams. I'm just really trying to put out where I rank everybody, because I am going to make separate videos going more in depth with some of these teams, but watch out for Ole Miss this year. I'll just say this right now. I have them as my dark horse to win a national title. I said I was going to pick one team as the dark horse to win it, and they were it. Because when you look at their schedule, there's no reason why they actually probably couldn't make some noise here this year. When you look at their schedule and how it really works out in their favor, you would understand why I kind of have picked them as a dark horse. Okay, moving on. Number 7, we got Michigan. Won a national title last year. They have Donovan Edwards coming back. That dude can run the football. They have Alex Orji, who he's decent, but he lacks accuracy. He reminds me of Joe Milton from Tennessee last year. Joe could throw the football over a barn, but the problem is he couldn't hit the side of a barn if he tried. So, and that's who Alex Orji kind of reminds me of. I've watched very, very little of the highlights of him. He's athletic. There's no doubt about that. He's super athletic. I just think his accuracy needs to improve a little bit. As far as what Michigan's going to look like this year, I don't really think anybody knows too well how well they're going to look. I expect there to be a little bit of a drop-off. How much of a drop-off, it's hard to tell. Because, they did lose a fair amount of guys to the draft. They lost Jim Harbaugh. So, we'll see what they're made of this year. And it's going to start pretty early on for them. Their season begins, I think, week 2 they play Texas. It might be week 3. It's one of those 2 weeks they play Texas. So, Michigan's year is going to start pretty quick for them. So, they're going to find out. Or the nation's going to find out how good Michigan is pretty quick. Moving on from them, I have Penn State at number 8. Penn State's usually a pretty good team each year. They're a consistent team, I'll give you that. Are they a national title caliber team? I don't think so. Not until they fix the offense. They're there every year with the defense. They're good. But they have an Ohio State problem. They can't beat Ohio State. And until they figure out how to do that, they're just not going to really... It's hard to put them in the national title. Like, envision them being there when you can't beat Ohio State. So that's... Defense is great. If they could have just found a little bit of offense last year... they could have been one of the teams going to the playoffs. It could have been Michigan and them in there as well instead of Alabama. So, but I'm going to cover them in a later video of what I believe the issue to be is. And until James Franklin fixes this issue, they're going to be who they are. So, that's why I have Penn State at number 8. Number 9. A team that went undefeated in the regular season last year. We have Florida State. We have DJ. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. Especially since I'm on recording. Makes it even harder. DJ Ungalule I just totally butchered that. I'd have to go back and find somebody pronouncing his name. It's actually not that hard. I just can't remember how you'd pronounce it. But DJ Ugabadoogie is going to lead the Florida State Seminoles. I actually have not looked at their schedule too in detail. They should have a decent year. I mean, they play in the ACC. They're going to play Clemson this year. They're going to play Miami. Mike Norvell had them rolling pretty good last year. I'm not really exactly sure how much they lost to the draft. But Florida State should be... I would put them in that second tier of teams. I would put them probably closer to the top of that second tier list. But we'll see what they can do this year. I mean, they play in the ACC, which is a bunch of nobodies. It's like a two-team conference, so we'll see what they do. But I got them at number 9. Number 10, I have Utah. If Utah can stay healthy, they have the chance to be dangerous. Cam Rising's coming back for his 20th year of college football. The dude Cam Rising's been in college football since 2018, I believe. He's been here forever. But Utah, they were banged up last year. They had a lot of injuries. So if they can stay healthy, I honestly could see Utah I could see Utah going really far this year if they can stay healthy. That was their biggest issue last year. They couldn't stay healthy. And I know a lot of people aren't familiar, but with me being a Pac-12 fan, I've seen a lot of Utah. Utah can wreck your whole season in an instant. They're not one to be taken lightly. I mean, if you overlook them, they're going to make you pay. But Utah, I think, is going to have a good year. If they can stay healthy, I think Utah has a good chance of getting in the playoffs this year. Utah's a good team. I kind of wish the Big Ten would have picked them up because they fit the mold, I think, of the Big Ten more than they do the Big 12. So that's rounding out the top 10. Next we go to number 11. I have Notre Dame. I know ESPN has Notre Dame inside the top 10. I left them outside the top 10 because I'm just not impressed by them. Every year we seem to do this. We put Notre Dame up there really high, and then they fail to deliver. Every year. So I'm not putting them in my top 10 until you go out there and you prove it that you're worthy of being in the top 10. They played Ohio State last year. They had them on the ropes, and then they lost on the last second play. But until they beat somebody of high caliber, and I'm not talking like USC and that fraud Lincoln Riley, we'll get to him in a minute. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody like an Ohio State, like a Michigan. Until you do that, I just can't take Notre Dame seriously. So I put them at number 11. At number 12, I have Tennessee. Joe Milton's gone. They have, I can't remember what that kid's name is, this quarterback now, but Joe Milton's gone. Josh Heupel's offenses are usually pretty good. So I think we're going to see probably some pretty big things out of Tennessee this year. I haven't looked at their schedule too in depth. I've only looked at my top 10 so far in good detail of their schedule. I haven't really looked hardcore at Tennessee's. But I think Tennessee's probably going to have a decent year this year. So I got them at number 12. Number 13, I got Missouri. They're another team that could do big things this year, is what I've been hearing. Pretty good team last year. They had Georgia on the ropes at one point. I believe it was last year. They only lost by 2. I believe it was last year. It could have been the year before, but I'm 90% certain it was last year where Georgia barely beat Mizzou. Mizzou actually should have beat them. They beat Ohio State in the bowl game. Now, I don't care how many Ohio State fans want to cry, oh, it was our third string out there. Third string, and we had a whole bunch of guys not playing the bowl game. Yeah, I don't care. Mizzou still held you to a field goal. That's pretty impressive. So, I got Mizzou at 13. Number 14, I got LSU. I don't really know what to expect out of LSU this year. I haven't looked at their schedule too in detail either. So, we'll see what comes out of LSU. I got him at number 14. Number 15, I got Clemson. I don't know if Cade Klubnik is coming back this year. But Clemson last year, they just didn't really have it. Last year was their first year without Brent Venables, I believe. So, they went through some growing pains. I am going to say this basically real quick to finish up on Clemson. Until Dabo Swinney embraces the transfer portal, I know he doesn't want to do it, but until he does it, I don't think Clemson's going to be what they were back in 2018, 19, 17. I don't think they're going to be that good. They're not even going to be anywhere remotely close to that quote-unquote like dynasty. They kind of had a mini dynasty they had there for a split second until Dabo embraces the transfer portal. You know, you either adapt with this game or you get left behind, and I think that's Dabo to a T right now. So until he figures this out or embraces it, I think Clemson is... They're not going to be what they were. They're kind of going to be stuck behind a lot of schools. Okay, number 16, I have Oklahoma State. Don't really know what to expect of them this year. I haven't really looked too in detail to Oklahoma State, so I'm not going to try to sit here and say this or that about them because I don't really know a whole lot about them. Other than I believe they are one of the favorites in the Big 12 now. So, number 17, I got Oklahoma. I think this year should be a little bit better for Brent Venables. You know, last year just kind of... They did okay last year. You know, Dylan Gabriel's not there with them anymore. They are going to be in the SEC, so they are changing conferences, so we'll see how that goes, but I'll have to look at their schedule a little more in depth, and then I can give a better opinion. Like, when I go more in depth on them, I could probably give a better assessment of Oklahoma when I look into them a little bit better, but I would suspect they should come out with a winning record this year. I don't think they're going to be a 6-6 team in the SEC. I think they have enough firepower to beat some of the lower end SEC schools. So we'll see what Brent Venables can do. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has won national titles as a coordinator, so we'll see what he can do. At number 18, I have Miami. I don't really know what I'll say about Miami. They got Cam Ward coming in, who I actually wanted Cam Ward to come to Oregon. I've watched one game of Cam Ward is when Oregon played. Cam Ward was at Washington State. I've seen one game of him is when Oregon played them last year. Cam Ward is a good quarterback. Like if he was in a bigger school or better school than Miami, if he was at like an Ohio State or like an Alabama, Cam Ward would probably be on the front runner of a Heisman. He is a good quarterback. I don't think a lot of people really know much about him because he did play on the West Coast last year, and a lot of people don't ever get to see West Coast teams. But he's a dude. Cam Ward's good. I just fear what's going to happen with Mario Cristobal, just because, for anybody who doesn't know, Mario used to coach Oregon for a couple of years. Mario is not the best at game management and decisions. I'll just leave it at that. So it should be interesting to see. You know, Cam, he was going to go to the NFL. He was going to do that, and then I guess he decided to come back to college. So I'm excited to see what Cam Ward does. I honestly thought he was going to go to Ohio State when he was looking at other schools because I believe Ohio State was one of the ones was a possibility of him going there, and luckily he didn't go there because I think Ohio State would be really scary at that point if they can put the talent together. But he didn't go there. He went to Miami, so we'll see what he can do at Miami. All right, number 19, I have Kansas State. Kansas State they were decent last year. They're supposed to be pretty good this year. We'll see what happens. But I got them at 19. Number 20, I have Texas A&M. Texas A&M is another school that I think we overhype every year. They were supposed to be good last year. They just... It was pretty bad what happened last year. I believe they fired Jimbo. I believe I can't. I think it was more towards the middle of the year. They fired Jimbo Fisher. Anything and everything that could have went wrong last year with Texas A&M did. I don't see this year being any. I don't really see them being really too much of a threat this year. So I got them at number 20. Number 21, I have USC. Now, I have been assured that the USC defense is going to be better this year than it was last year. Yeah, I'm not taking anybody's word for that. I'll believe it when I see it with my own eyes. Lincoln Riley is a fraud. Don't let anybody fool you. Lincoln Riley is a fraud. Him and Ryan Day are in competition with each other of who's a bigger fraud. Because I know what some people are probably thinking. Oh, well, how can you say that about Day? He's 58-1. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care that he's 58-1 because nobody cares if you can beat Rutgers, you can beat sucky Maryland, or you could beat Podunk, Iowa. I don't care about those 58 wins. He can't beat Michigan, and he lost to Georgia. He solely, that was all him and his poor game management. So you basically have Lincoln Riley and you have Ryan Day of who's a bigger fraud. It's a competition between both of them. They're the biggest. Both of them are biggest frauds in my opinion, and nobody's changing that. But I got USC at number 21. Caleb Williams isn't there, so we shall see what Lincoln can do without Caleb. If Caleb Williams wasn't there last year, I mean, they went 7-5 last year, and that's with Caleb Williams, a Heisman quarterback. I don't see this. If they wouldn't have had him last year, oh yeah, they would have been. They would have been over there on the sidelines with Colorado and Deion Sanders of who's got the crappier record. If they didn't have Caleb Williams, and they, I mean, it's not their defense is what screwed them up last year. If they would have had an ounce of defense, it may have been a different story. Because they lost to Washington by 10. That was a high-scoring game. It was like 52-42. They lost to Oregon 36-27, which I know that score sounds pretty close, but when you watch the tape of that, it was nowhere close. Like a lot of the game, it was like 36-14 at one point. Like when you actually watch that game, it was never close. Like Oregon totally had them in a chokehold the entire time. Really, it was never close. But I got USC all the way out there. We'll see what they can do. I don't have much faith in Lincoln Riley. Like I said, I think he's a fraud. All right, number 22, Arizona. This is hard. Jed Fisher left Arizona to go to Washington. So it's hard to say what Arizona is going to look like. They still have that wide receiver. What the heck is his name? McMillan. They have some pretty good wide receivers at Arizona. And I'm not going to go too crazy into detail because I don't know. Oregon didn't play Arizona last year, so I don't really know because I didn't watch them play. Some of these teams, it's only because they match up with Oregon is the only time I get to see them. But I didn't see it. We didn't play Arizona last year. I didn't see Arizona, so I don't really know a whole lot about them other than their coach kind of left them high and dry to go to Washington. So I guess we'll see what they can do. Jed Fisher kind of built them up last year. He took them from nothing and turned them into a little bit of something. So we'll see if they can continue that trend. All right, number 23. I have Liberty. They went 12-0 last year. They are a non-Power 5 school. And when you look at their schedule this year, they could easily be undefeated again this year. They don't play a big powerhouse school. They don't even play a top 25 team right now. So I think Liberty could be in that contention again. But we already know how that's going to play out. I mean, even if Liberty gets in the playoff this year, we already know how it's going to go. I don't see them faring any better than what they did in the Fiesta Bowl, which, if you don't know, they lost like 42-6 to Oregon. So I don't see them faring any better, even if they get in it this year undefeated. They'll just get slaughtered again. They're just not built to compete with the bigger schools. And number 24, I have Kansas. I mean, Don't really know much about them. They probably won't even be ranked by week 3. But got Kansas 24, and then finally to round out the top 25, which I feel better about putting who I got at 25 versus who the AP actually has. The AP has Iowa, sucky Iowa at 25. I was like, yeah, I'm not putting Iowa in the 25 until they figure out something better than a middle school offense. I mean, my God, last year. Defense, yeah, their defense was good. But when you only play Michigan and Ohio State, how hard is it to beat anybody else in the Big Ten? Everybody else there was really nobody else saw that great in the Big Ten last year, other than Michigan and Ohio State. Like I said, Penn State, until they figure out their offense, it's not hard to beat them. But I got Colorado at 25. Yeah, it's crazy. I got a team that went 4-8, opposed to a team that went to the Big Ten championship game last year in Iowa. I actually have Colorado because I think Colorado is going to do bigger things this year than what they did last year. Travis Hunter got hurt last year. I think what is Sanders' son's name? Shedeur Sanders, I believe. It's something like that. I'm not a name pronouncer. You can't tell. I think Deion's son is going to do a lot better. A lot of the problem last year is they couldn't. The offensive line was terrible last year, so I think Deion's went out in the portal, got himself a couple guys. So I think Deion will do better than 4-8 this year. They're in the Big 12. They were I think they were one of the first teams to decide to leave the Pac-12. I think they were like one of the very first teams to come out and say, "Yep, we're leaving." They went to the Big 12. I think that was before USC said they were leaving. So I think Deion will have them a little bit on track this year. We'll see. I'm not expecting Deion to win the national title or even go to the playoffs, but I think he'll at least make a bowl game this year. So that's how I got everybody ranked in the top 25. Some people may agree with my list, other people may not. Other people may agree with my teams that I have ranked, but they might flip-flop a couple people here and there, but that's just how I got them. And, it's like I always say, it doesn't really matter. The AP poll really doesn't matter. It's all about the college football playoff rankings on that final Saturday. That's really the only thing that matters. Which now it's a little bit different because instead of just being one of the 4 teams, now you got to be one of the 12 teams. So going to be a little bit different this year, but we have all season to talk about that, which is great because I wanted to do this last year, but I wasn't starting middle in the season. But wanted to do this last year. We're doing it this year. So next videos are probably going to be going more in detail with some of these teams because I got more to talk about, more in depth with some of these teams. As well as we're probably going to do a preview for the weekend with each week with me picking. I'm probably going to take the 5 top games, I think, of that weekend, and I'm going to pick who I think is going to win, and we can see how well I do throughout the season with if my picks are right or if my picks are wrong, my win versus loss column. So we'll see how good I am at picking them. I'm thinking 5. We might do a little more than that, but we'll see. So that's going to be it for this video.